Are you nervous about your Stafford driving test?
No!
Or maybe you've just never been to Stafford at all. In this video, I'll show you exactly what to expect. I'll show you where to go and the main things you're going to need to pass your test in Stafford, even if you're coming out of town. Okay, so this is where it all begins. We are outside Stafford Driving Test Centre. As you can see, the car park isn't exactly the most friendly of car parks. Luckily, the examiners make up for it because they are far more friendly. When you get to the test centre, you're going to need to make sure that you reverse into a bay. It doesn't matter how you do it, you're not being watched, but you need to reverse. Make sure you arrive at the test centre no more than 10 minutes before. If you get here before that, someone's going to say something because you're going to interrupt someone else's driving test. And of course, make sure you bring your provisional and if you need them, glasses as well. Now here is a very big tip for you if you have your driving test in Stafford. We've all learned this the hard way. Now, back in my early days, one of my learners managed to fail their driving test in less than 10 seconds from leaving that car park. Probably closer to 3 seconds, but you know, who's counting? They drove out that car park to drive down there and didn't look both ways. Now this is a live road, this is a live junction. If you do that, it's not gonna go down well. So make sure you have a little look both ways before exiting the car park. Okay, we've just got out our car, we're at the test centre, we're going in. Follow me. So we head this way, there are the doors, the door will be open, and off we go. Then you'll get back out here and the examiner will ask you to read a number plate. It'll either be a number plate on the wall or it'll be an actual car number plate. There are some number plates. Can you read them from here? Don't be deceived by the camera. It's very different on camera than it is in real life, but that's the sort of distance you want. About 20 meters, 20 big steps would be absolutely fine. Okay, so what roads will you face in Stafford? Well, Stafford has a mixed bag. You have lots of rural driving. So if you're from the big city and you've never driven in Stafford, you have to get yourself used to rural roads. But it does also have some big spiral complex roundabouts as well. There are lots of cheeky one-way streets. So if you're not used to those, get used to them because you need to know. And there's a few 20 zones in there as well. Occasionally, you may also have an unmarked crossroads. But the good news, there are no motorway style slip roads, so that makes life a hell of a lot easier compared to some test centres. Now this video is very short and sweet and to the point, but if you want more details about the test routes, about the roads in Stafford and just more about your driving test in Stafford, have a look at my website, have a look at the link in the description. I've got all the test routes there for you, step-by-step videos for you to have a look. It really helps you nail down those one-way streets and those unmarked crossroads, which if you don't know what to expect when they're coming up, can leave you in the dark a little bit. Most of Stafford's absolutely fine. It's just those really unknown areas, the one-way streets that you don't know what to expect. And if you don't realise when they're really, really short by the end of it and you position on the left to turn right, well, it's game over. So it just really helps with those challenging spots that you don't really know. It's got all maps and everything for you. Okay, so here are some tips for people that are out of town. Right, if you're not used to Stafford, there are 2 things you really need to know. Now, the biggest problem you're going to have if you're not used to Stafford is the lanes, especially on the roundabouts. If you're not in the right lane at the beginning, you're a bit stuffed at the end. Now, it would be possible to change lanes if you made sure you did it right. So how do we make sure we do it right if we're not used to Stafford? Well, the best bet would be to get used to Stafford and learn the roads. But you can't do every single road if you haven't lived in Stafford for a few years. So what do you do instead? Just make sure you're checking your mirrors. You are okay and safe to change lanes if you check your mirrors and make sure there's nothing there first. If you change lanes and hope for the best and then check your mirrors, well, you're stuffed. And the second one is don't panic if you do go the wrong way. Let's say you do get into the wrong lane, you think, you know what, it's too late to change lanes or it's not safe or I'm not comfortable. Stay there. Say, listen, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong lane. No fault. You can't get a fault for going the wrong way as long as you do it safely. And that's one of those big things that really gets people, because it's all well and good saying that, but on your test, you've got that pressure there and you're thinking, I must go the right way. And then at the end, they're like, if you'd just gone the wrong way, I wouldn't have been able to fault you. So, and I can give you a real life example of this. I had a student recently called Dan. He's going down the road and he's meant to take the next road on the right. He's in the wrong lane. He's in the left lane. It's too late. The examiner says, nice one, Dan. Now you've missed the turning. In a joking way, Dan says to the examiner, well, if I go to the roundabout, I take the 3rd exit right, that'll bring us back round and we can carry on from there. He says, bang on, excellent. Carry on. No fault. There is no fault for missing your turning. And it's very easy to say that now, but when you're on the test and your brain's going, I must go the right way, it's a lot harder. So just keep trying to reinforce it's okay to go the wrong way. What are the most common challenges in Stafford? So these are the trickiest roundabouts you'll face in Stafford. I have got a separate video all about that. So have a look at the link right there in the description. You'll find it. It's got a lot more detail, or you can just go straight to my packages, whatever works best. There are also a few one-way streets. There's 3 one-way streets to be precise. You have this street here, which is Cooperative Street. The only important thing you need to really know with one-way streets is if you're turning right, you need to position on the right. Now, if you've never done a one-way street in your area, then you might not know this. But if you don't position on the right, then you're blocking people behind and you're gonna fail your driving test. Now that's all well and good saying that, but the problem people have is they don't recognize that it's a one-way street. And there's a particular nasty one called Hazelton Grove in Stafford, where the road is so short that it's very easy to miss the initial signs. And before you know it, you're at the end of the road and you've not positioned on the right and bang, you failed your driving test. Poor old Helen experienced this, who was international driver from another country, driven far longer than I've driven, but she missed the sign and wham bam, thank you ma'am, she's failed the test. So, bad day. Best way to avoid this is to recognize at the end of the road, what can we look for to suddenly go, oh crap, this is a one-way street, position on the right. So easiest way to do this is, first of all, if it is a one-way street, you are going to have a full double broken white line across the entire road. If it's just half the road, that's just a normal two-way street. If it's across the entire road, that's showing you this is a giveaway across the whole road, therefore it has to be a one-way. The other big giveaway is the upside down triangle. Now that is the universal sign in the UK. It's the only one out there, and it always means give way. If you've got a give way triangle on both sides or one in the center of the road, this shows you this is a one-way street. And the final one in this particular situation, as you can see, there is a give way sign on both sides of the road. If this was a two-way street, you would only have a give way sign on the left, not on the right. So hopefully you'll agree, there's a few ideas there to help you recognize a one-way street.
In this particular example, as you can see, we only have a double white line. We don't have any upside down triangles or give way signs, so you need to be hot on. That's why a lot of people miss this particular one. But as I say, double white line across the whole road shows you that the full lane is give way for you.
As you can tell, I'm really reiterating one-way street here because Stafford is a bit of a devil for one-way streets. And if you're from somewhere like Newcastle on Tyne, the nearest test centre down the road from us, there's no one-way streets. This isn't on a single test route in Newcastle or Stoke. Actually, there is one in Stoke. So it's not such a drama. But in Stafford, it is. Now, there is a couple of yellow boxes in Stafford. All you need to know with these is if you are turning right, you can wait inside the yellow box to turn right. Don't wait behind the traffic lights. One of the biggest things learners tend to do if they're turning right and it looks like it's busy is they wait behind the green light. Don't. If there's space in the middle, go to the middle, otherwise you're going to block all the traffic. Stafford does also have a couple of 20-mile-per-hour zones. This one in particular, Chell Road, also has a bus lane on the left with a solid white line. Do not enter the bus lane. However, after the bus lane, the lane then splits back into two. And the examiner may very well ask you to follow the road ahead at the roundabouts. There are no road markings to say which lane's which, so we must assume left lane, which means you're going to need to change back into the left lane after the bus lane. So again, need to be aware of this, look out for your road marking. As I mentioned earlier, Stafford does have a large number of rural driving test routes. And these are only going to increase as the DVSA is pushing rural driving routes on the driving test. So if you're out of town, somewhere like Wolverhampton where there are no rural routes or there's far less, you're going to need to make sure that you practice and get up to scratch with rural driving, because if you're not used to it, it is terrifying. If you want to practice in Stafford, the best advice I could give is follow a road to Seiford, which you can see on the map here, and that'll take you into a nice full ring, which just happens to be one of the similar test routes that you're going to do in Stafford. It doesn't matter which way round you go, just head for Seiford and keep going, and then aim back to Stafford and you'll be absolutely fine. This is going to give you a good taste of what a rural driving test route looks like in Stafford. Now, the main thing with rural roads is judging the speed. Most rural roads are going to be national speed limit, which you can tell because there are no street lights and there'll be a national speed limit sign at the beginning. But the main thing you're looking for is no street lights. If you're on a road and there's no street lights and there's no signs, it's going to be a rural road, which is 60 miles per hour. Now, I really hate saying it's very cliche. National speed limit is not a target, it is a limit. I really don't like saying that. But literally, go whatever speed you feel safe. When I say that, if it's a nice straight road and there's nothing coming, then get your speed up. You know, you're aiming for sort of 50 miles per hour. If it's really windy and there's oncoming cars everywhere and it's very narrow, slow the hell down. If you need to go 30, 20, go whatever speed you need to go. You have to make that judgment depending on the weather conditions, depending on the other vehicles on the road. It just depends on everything. And that's why rural roads can be so tricky, and you need to make sure you practice them. Lucky for you, I do have lots of examples of driving on rural roads, step-by-step guides in my package if you want to have a look. Now, the town driving part of Stafford isn't too bad. My secret weapon with anyone that I'm taking that's getting ready for their driving test is going to be doing the figure of 8 in Stafford. If you look at the map, this is the general gist of what you need to be doing. That's just going to give you a full taste of all the major roundabouts that you're going to need to do in Stafford, all the major roads and dual carriageways. If you can do that figure of 8, there shouldn't really be a challenge in Stafford that you can't do. Okay, what particular quirks does Stafford have? Okay, the first one is here, McDonald's roundabout. I mentioned before, it is in my roundabouts video, so you can see it there. It's an odd one because the road markings show you can use either lane to go straight on, but there is no straight on. So you need to follow either lane round to the right. The only important part with this is you need to stay in your lane when you go around the roundabout. If you try and change lanes as you exit, you're going to cause major problems. As I say, in the other video, everything there, but it's kind of a must know. The next one, as I mentioned earlier, is Hazelton Grove. Just because it's a very short one-way street, it just tends to really catch people out. Another one that I really don't like is Asda roundabout. It's very quirky, all that area. The lanes really curve more than they do anywhere else that I've seen, and people tend to accidentally keep going straight rather than following the road, and they go in the wrong lane, and it's okay going the wrong lane, but they do it without checking the mirrors, and yeah. And then if we follow that on further, you've then got a give way sign here, which is right next to traffic lights, covered by trees, so people sometimes miss that. So it's well worth doing this area around Asda in general. Apart from that, as I mentioned earlier, you've got your bus lane by Sainsbury's coming off Jail Square roundabout. And this is just so you get used to the 20 mile per hour zone, the bus lane, and changing back into the left lane after. Then here, as we pinned it on the map, just going past Tesco, we have to turn right after the traffic lights. Right there, you've got a box that you need to get into. Unfortunately, the box is tiny. Now, in most situations when turning right, you'd have chevrons, which you can drive into as long as the lines are broken. Here, we don't have chevrons. Instead, we have an oncoming lane, which means we can't go in there. So we have to be very patient and wait to go into the box. Basically, don't go in too early because there'll be oncoming cars and potentially risk failing your driving test. And the final one that I would make sure I focus on is this yellow box right here. This is right at the beginning of your driving test. If you're asked to turn right here, a lot of people find this quite tricky. Right or left, actually, quite tricky. If you're going left towards A34, or if you're turning right, typical crossroads, make sure you give way to oncoming cars. That's it. Sounds easy. Because it's a very big crossroads and there's lots of different roads, it really confuses people. But essentially, lights go green, looking ahead, go forward, wait in the middle if needed. If it's clear, carry on. And my biggest tip with all of this is to speak out loud. I know I say it, you might not be comfortable with it, and I'm not saying you have to say every single thing, but if you come in and you see a yellow box, just say yellow box. You see a 30 sign, 30. Because how can the examiner say you haven't checked your left mirror if you said left mirror? It's a hell of a lot harder. And if you see a red light and you say red light, the examiner's not going to be panicking that you haven't seen a red light because you've said red light. But more importantly, how are you going to feel on that driving test? I know how I felt. I was bloody nervous. Terrified might be the correct word. And I really overthink things. I know I overthink things. And I can start worrying about crap that's already happened. I'm terrible for it. So I know now, in my 40 years, 39 years of life, that I'm far better at staying in the moment when I speak out loud. So if I'm driving down the road and I really need to focus, which I do when I'm driving on the other side of the road in other countries, then I will speak out loud. I will say what's coming up because it keeps me focused on what's going on. All right, we're gonna have a look at some of the most common questions that people have in Stafford. This is really useful if you're not from Stafford. So the first most common question is, what is the hardest part in all the test routes in Stafford? Well, personally, I'd say is focus on that figure of 8. People that don't know Jail Square roundabout and Asda roundabout are asking for trouble. just because they're spiral roundabouts, they're complex roundabouts. There's 3 or 4 lanes on some of those roundabouts. There's a hell of a lot going on if you've never driven on them. On top of that, you're gonna be really nervous. So by practicing those, knowing what to expect, you're going to have a far better chance of passing your driving test. Will you have to do a dual carriageway? Well, this is one of the absolute beauties of Stafford. So technically, yes, you will have to do a dual carriageway right at the beginning of your test, in fact, because the A34 is a dual carriageway in most sections. However, there are no slip roads in Stafford. So you will not have to do any motorway style slip roads. So yes, you will have to do dual carriageway, but it's easy. It's 30, 40 miles an hour, no problem. And this is a good question. What are the Stafford examiners like? Are they strict? Are they unfair? How are they? Okay, there are 4 driving test examiners in Stafford Driving Test Centre. They are all lovely people. Some of them like to talk more than others. Some of them like to stay quieter more than others. Either way, they are going to be very friendly and they're going to make you feel as comfortable as possible. Well, I've been to at least 7, 8 different test centres in the UK, and I can honestly tell you that Stafford is by far the friendliest test centre I have been to. That's why I keep doing all my tests there, because it makes your life a lot easier when you're comfortable and your students comfortable, knowing that you're going to be in that comfortable environment to do a driving test. Now, saying that, if you put anyone at risk, including yourself, you are still going to get a serious fault and you are still going to fail your driving test. But at least they're nice about it. If you guys have any questions about Stafford, get them in the comments and I will do my best to answer anything you like, or I can make a video about it. Now, if this has helped, but you want a bit more detail, have a look at my website, Josh Your Driving Instructor. You've got your Stafford test routes on there. You've got an online driving course on there, less than the cost of one driving lesson. It's going to give you massive value and increase your chances of passing your driving test dramatically. Good luck with your test and let us know how you get on in the comments. I will see you all soon. Boom.